when you were in cover, we would shrink it in.
You're actually
so
magically shrinking. That's
exactly.
Right. Yeah. This is where we're going.
Yes.
Times Square. Oh, no. Confirm. Times Square really has another fascinating factor. This is really talking about how the sausage is made, because we'll get out into the open at the end, right, in the actual Times Square. And I don't know if people realize this, but our weapons stop doing collision with their bullets over 90 meters. There's no combat in this vast city over 90 meters. This is our max combat distance.
That's right.
And this has to do with like performance and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay, how did I
think we extended it to 120,
maybe,
if I'm not mistaken, in Division 2. So we had slightly
Remind
more
me
range.
where to go. It's down somewhere.
So it's down the subway. It
put me somewhere
put
strange.
you somewhere strange.
All right, let's see.
It's down this way to the
Yeah,
right, like in that.
Yeah, it's down here.
Yeah.
But this mission
go
this mission really challenged the lengths, right? And you'll see like how.
Yeah, and we had a lot of problems with that actually.
Yeah, and we had to add a lot of obstacles and make it, because like people want the fantasy of sniping, and I think we managed to get the feel of that despite not being further than.
Yeah. Oh, a little blind fire action. So what did you do to basically disincentivize players just going around blind firing and not?
So there's two things, right? The obvious one is the fact that you're less accurate, you're less controlled, so you have more recoil, etc. But the less obvious one is that you do stick up and can be shot.
Yeah.
In a way that you can't when you're full cover. Dude, you're not playing with pulse. I don't know where anything is without pulse. I don't know how you do this.
You got to use the radar.
This is true, but also like I don't know if I ever normally play without pulse.
So we've got the Rikers here that you're fighting. So a fun fact about the Rikers is, and there's still some like small elements that you can tell from time to time, but they actually didn't start off as the Rikers. They, in fact, are even their dev name, and I know that like people in the community have wondered about
Dug
that.
that out, yeah.
Like why are they BRA underscore?
Like the file name, if you dig into it, yeah.
Exactly. And it's because they were the Bratva, or the Russian mafia. That was
Which
kind
is
of
like a very New York thing to latch onto.
And all the archetypes are actually designed around that. It wasn't until very late in production that we changed it to the Rikers, which gave it...
For like narrative reasons and to tie it into other things going on in the story.
And obviously Rikers is a prominent part of New York. I think it works with it, but I think the archetypes probably would have been designed slightly differently had it started with that. Yeah. Oh, you're going to the exploit spot. I remember that.
But this is also to say that you and I worked on like how do you lay out a combat? Because everything looks like the situation you define on the day, but actually if you squint, everything is like organized as 3 lanes, like a left lane, a right lane, and a middle lane. And usually at the start of combat you have some really good advantageous spot, but that can be flanked so that eventually they'll make you move. And this is like a really good illustration of that. And this, you'll see this pattern all over the shop in like all combat situations.
Yeah, that's right.
Remind me, in Division 1, could they climb stairs? Or like ladders?
I don't think they could climb ladders in Division 1. I seem to remember that we had to always have another high platform or something they could get to if there was a ladder. So you couldn't just hide out there. But that place actually where you were, I remember that being an exploit, because that angle where they're spawned they actually can't shoot you and hit you. Because like the NPC vision-wise, what they see is like a very different view of the world than you.
Right.
It's actually just, pretty much a flat plane, so it matches like the terrain, and then there's boxes, which is like where the covers are, but they're very simplified, right? It's just rectangles. And then you, as a player, you are actually just a rectangle. And you have a little point that they're trying to always look at. And that is the world that they see, right? That is it. And so when you're up there, there's actually a rectangle, that collision. It's actually blocking them from being able to see that point on you, which is in the center of your chest.
So good in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, we also kind of leaned into the fact that like elevation should be good. You should be rewarded for that, but also.
Yeah, but we don't want you to sit there forever.
But weirdly, conversely, and this is something when we looked at the Emporium a minute ago, one of our game director at the time, Matthias Karlsson, he really wanted us to have, this is a cover game. Covers should be safe. So even when the NPCs or the enemies are shooting you from above, they won't hit you when you're sitting in cover, even though logically they could, right? Like we cheat to make sure that your cover feels safe.
Yeah.
As long as it's kind of between you and the enemy.
Yeah, that's right. We would take your hitbox and we would make it smaller.
Right,
for the NPCs.
How we did it.
And that's what we do. When you were in cover, we would shrink it in.
You're actually
so
magically shrinking. That's
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So if they flanked you, they could hit you just fine. And if they were behind you, they could hit you just fine. But if they were anywhere in front of you, they actually wouldn't be able to hit you because we do that shrink. And actually the same thing, in Division 1, we didn't do it to the same extent that we ended up doing it in Division 2, but we actually increase your hitbox when you're out of cover, because we really, really, really want you to be in cover. So we just like some little tricks and things that we use. And what's interesting too is on the server, basically, we know where we're shooting and we hit, and then on the client, we basically correct it to make it look like it hits your mesh.
So there's a lot of voodoo that has to happen.
Stuff. Yeah.
Credits to the programmers that figured a lot of that out as well.
And I have to say, like, the feel of combat in Division 1 still feels, I think,
it's still cool. It's still
really
good, right?
Good overall. But you can tell it's not quite as responsive as Division 2.
But
and that's because we're
holding our craft, really.
Yeah, and in Division 1, we're running the servers at 10 hertz.
Yeah,
so only 10 updates,
10
per
updates
second.
Yeah.
Whereas in Division 2, we had actually updated it to 20, which I think in Last Stand and the DLC that we did for Division was the first time that we had increased that, and because we wanted that feel for PvP to feel responsive.
Oh man!
So what are you doing here?
The carry mechanic. So like we were trying to make this adventure where you're going through New York and doing various things to save what remains in a crisis, and like we were like, oh, you can't just shoot people. We need other mechanics, and so like we made this carry mechanic, which also like okay, it's a multiplayer game. You're gonna have people protecting each other as they're exposed. And honestly, it's just so frustrating. It's like my least favorite game mechanic that I ever worked on, right? Like I get the tension, like here, it's like, oh no, I gotta protect the thing and like someone cover me. But when playing a mission alone, it just becomes a little tedious, if we're being honest, right?
But this wasn't planned, but how cool is it that it's been transitioning to night at Times Square? And of course, like the power isn't on, and you're going to turn on the power. This is like perfect timing.
But are you saying they didn't like script it to become night right now in this mission?
I don't think we have the ability to do that in Division 1.
Well, I mean,
you could do that in Div 2.
Emergent cinematic moment. We're playing on a gamepad as well, and a huge thing that you and I worked on a lot is like the aim assist, because like regardless of what you think about competitive and shooter skill play on console, you kind of need to interpret the limitations of these sticks.
Yeah, that's right. It's never going to be as accurate, right, as mouse keyboard.
But what people don't realize is also like you have to match that to like the run speed and turn speed of your enemies. You can't make enemies that are like better than your aim assist. So it's a It's a collaboration, right? To get it exactly right. Oh, come on.
That's
Can I
right.
just like inch over here?
So in a way, like you and I kind of battled, you know, me representing the NPC side, you
Yeah,
representing
I
the
always
player
saw
side.
you as my enemy.
We were
sure.
kind of, yeah, exactly.
my old nemesis. I feel like maybe if I played this fair with like gear that was for this level, I would have been toast by now.
By the way, we just saw a skill interruption.
Right, I shot him as he was throwing the
Yeah,
grenade.
that was good. Because the skill interruptions was actually something that,
Difficult.
yeah, I mean, back in 2013, 2014, probably not until the last year and a half of development, I don't think we had really implemented that. We had ideas around it, and I remember we hadn't signaled it well enough, so people didn't actually understand. They thought like, oh, why do they keep killing themselves with grenades? I don't understand what's happening.
But once we got it right, it's really fun to
Yeah.
like just make someone drop their grenade.
I think so, right? I think it ended up working out well in the end. You know, obviously, like all that signaling, like the animation, and the bark, the UI, like all of those things have to trigger and like basically be a call to action to the player to say, hey, like shoot me, interrupt me. If you do it now, you're going to get a big reward. It's a window of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then we ended up building on that, obviously in Div 1, and then Div 2, we further expanded upon that, and that became kind of our bread and butter.
I'm so focused now. I can't even add intelligently to it. But the grenades, I know we worked on for a long time on like being able to shoot them out of the air as well. Did we ever ship with that?
I think we did in Div 2. I don't think we did.
But I don't know that anyone has ever done it because like it's such
You can in Div 2.
I know you can, but I wonder if anyone's ever done it in practice.
It has a little collision box. It's very hard to hit.
This guy. So they're, yeah, so purple, yeah, that's veteran, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the veterans and the elites, and
something that I don't...
They're quite beefy in Division 1. They have a lot more health in Division 2.
An interesting aspect, right? Like, you know, we can talk about that now. Like, people talked about the idea of bullet sponges and like that they took unrealistic amounts of damage. And yeah, fair, they do.
Yep.
But often because you're pushing yourself to play the highest possible content that you do. But one trick we did was also to like, they don't just scale their damage and their health equally, right? Like we push them harder, I think, on damage than we push lethality.
Yeah, we did that more in Div 2 than Div 1. We did it in Div 1 as well. But I think we didn't have the counters, right, that we in Div 1 that we did in Div 2, right? Like the NPCs were not as protective of their life. They weren't constantly like ducking and dodging. The weapons didn't have as much kick, so it was easier to stay on target.
We learned so much.
We did. We learned a ton. And again, I think it goes back to we were still figuring out when we made Division 1, how much RPG are we?
Yeah, exactly.
How much shooter are we? How much skill do we require? And then we added, remember, Legendary mode.
Right.
And that was really targeted. Yes, it was a gear check, absolutely.
Of course, but it was also
more
meant
about
to be a
skill
check because it wasn't just scaling the health and damage. It was also changing reaction times and like how many abilities they could use, etc. Right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Cool. Yeah, this has been a blast from the past to get through this.
Super fun to see, and gosh, it still looks
so gorgeous.
Great.
Just look at this.
What a vibe.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been an absolute blast. We got to see both Broadway Emporium and Times Square. It's been a really long time. A little more gray hair than maybe the last time you saw us.
A little more wisdom.
So thank you for watching.